Every day we see bias and discrimination happens also in the context of age, in our cultures and also in politics. Age based discrimination exists on various levels and comes under many contexts which we don't seem to see it as a problem. Whether it be in your culture where elders are abusing their authority over younger ones and stating that this is how you should be because we are older to you and hence you need to obey us. It exists in political platforms where younger parliament members are seen as immature and inexperienced and stated that they don't have an idea of how politics really works. We will definitely expand upon all these topics and cover up a lot of issues in age based discrimination, which we may have thought all this time is a norm, but it isn't.
Firstly, discrimination is treating someone less favorably based on the group, class, or category they belong to. So, discrimination also is prejudice in action. This is the general meaning of discrimination. While the meaning of the bias is to favor one group over others unfairly. Furthermore, age discrimination involves treating an applicant or employee less favorably because of his or her age. Other than that, age bias is stereotyping or discriminating against individuals or groups based on their age, while can be done casually or systematically. So we move to the culture of ageism is the specific use of negative language and derogatory images to discriminate against a certain population group. The word we use is the essence of our communicative exchanges and shapes the perceptions and meanings of the things and people around us. So we also see that young people are facing distinct age-related barriers in various spheres of their life, including politics. How discrimination has affected societies? Discrimination affects people's opportunities and their well-being and their sense of agency. So, persistent exposure to discrimination can lead individuals to internalize the prejudice or stigma that is directed against them, manifesting in shame, low self-esteem, fear and stress, as well as poor health. So, discrimination produces immense effects in the psychological, social, political, and economic domains. Whether intended or not, the effects are compounded by the loss of self-worth, a sense of alienation from the wider society, political disempowerment, and economic inequalities. So now we move to Malaysian culture based on ageism. As the average life expectancy of Malaysians is 75 years, a person needs his savings to last between 15 to 20 years. So the retirement age for Malaysians is 60, but many are not ready to retire. Plus, there is the need to survive with the high cost of living, and then ageism, prejudice or discrimination based on a person's age exists in Malaysia.
Filial piety, also known as Xiao in Mandarin, is the most important virtue in traditional Chinese and many other East Asian civilizations. It entails honoring your parents, elders, and ancestors. The core values of filial piety are obedience, sacrifice, and obligations. It creates a visible hierarchical power structure in both the family and the society. Filial piety gives distinct duties to persons based on their gender, age, and status. For example, the old have absolute power, whereas the younger generation must behave in a good manner. Filial piety is designed to assist people, especially children, to live in harmony according to the Confucius original principles. Filial piety sounds wonderful in its purest form, but when we put it into practice, we need to be mindful of the impact we make on others. Filial piety is defined by Confucianism as the important virtue and primary obligation of respecting, obeying, and caring for one's parents and senior family members. So, filial piety sounds fantastic, right? Is filial piety toxic to Asian parenting? For me, I support filial piety because your parents gave you life and cared for you emotionally, spiritually, physically, and financially, which is not a simple task. Filial piety is all about caring your parents because you wish to and because they did it for you voluntarily. Parents are not always right, but there is an old Chinese proverb that says, older equals wiser. There must have been occasions when we did something when we were younger that our parents clearly instructed us not to do it, but we still do it, and it turns out really bad for our lives. And then that's also a reason why trends like things I would tell my 20-year-old self are all over the internet. Because for all the years that they have been around, we've looked to the elderly for advice and wisdom. Parents have been to this world longer than us and have wisdom to provide, but more importantly, they are well-intentioned. It may not come out in the ideal way, but filial piety is not toxic. According to Professor Wijan Chang, it is only when a father behaves as a correct father that a son can be expected to behave as a correct son. Yes, there are negative examples of filial piety, such as guilt-tripping your children into studying hard. Yet there are also good examples, such as giving your hard-earned money to your parents in order for them to save it for you, rather than them spending it by themselves. In a word, this is an example of modern filial piety.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Fatima, and today I will talk about filial piety, but with another perspective other than Sarah's perspective. So to start off, I will talk about the first point, which is that not all parents offer support to their kids. While it cannot be contradicted that they do birth us into this world, and some parents do raise their children accordingly by offering mental, emotional, and financial support. But in some other households, parents did not even pay for financial support, and they did not give emotional support, and they didn't even accept the children as they were. So this will eventually impact the children's mental health state, making them suffer later in life. Without a doubt, parents or the elderly experience more life than us, but that does not mean that all of their advice are reliable or accurate. As human beings, we are more inclined to certain things than others, and it is completely normal because we as human beings have our preferences. On one hand, some parents' advice may come across as biased, while on the other hand, some parents do not even offer advice. Rather, they force their ideology onto their children and making the children have no other options than merely agreeing with them. This shows that some toxic parents do not want what is best for their children, rather they want what is best for themselves without even considering the children's opinions and preferences. Thirdly, to refute Sarah's third point, when parents are getting older, they will need people to take care of them. This is, of course, a natural response when the parents have taken great care of the children. Thus, the children will want to pay back and take care of their parents out of love. But in some cases, parents that did not foster a loving relationship with their children will resort to guilt trip their children. Some would say that their children have to take care of them because they raised their children. The notion of us taking care of our parents is okay and very respectable, but only if our parents took good care of us when we are little. But this may not be the case if we were abused in any way by our parents. The love that is supposed to be there is simply absent, just because we are not given any love when we are kids. So the children genuinely will not know how to navigate the relationship with their parents. So it'll be like a burden for them, and it'll be very confusing for them. In conclusion, to a certain point, filial piety is acceptable, but it should not be applied to every individual. We should be aware that not all people are accustomed to certain privileges like having good and reliable parents. All in all, we should take filial piety with a grain of salt. Some of its elements are reasonable, while some are not. If filial piety is misused, parents or the elderly will not be held accountable for their mistakes, while the children or the youngsters are the ones who have to face the circumstances of the situation. This outlook can be traced in Malaysian and Indian politics. It is apparent that young people face discrimination in politics merely because of their age.
Politics definitely works towards the growth of the country. However, we still see a lot of discrimination and bias in terms of age. In countries like India and Malaysia, it is quite prominent, where parliament members have been treated differently just because of how young they are.
Kenapa apabila rakyat biasa, anak muda yang pakai mask hanya letak kat dagu boleh didenda RM1,000? Makcik, orang tua berumur 72 tahun kerana tidak ikut perintah kuarantin kena bayar denda RM12,000 sampai di penjara 5 bulan. Kenapa berlainan? Kenapa tidak ada denda RM1,000? Kenapa ada perbezaan daripada segi pelaksanaan undang-undang? So yang jelas di sini memang pelaksanaan undang-undang ada perbezaannya. Tolonglah jangan nak mempertahankan benda yang salah.
Pencuri budak-budak kecil, jajan budak kecil kat dewan ni dia dah bayar denda dah. Apa lagi masalah?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Naim bin Ramin, and I'll be talking about the youth discrimination and age bias occurring in politics, particularly in the Malaysian context. The clip that was shown earlier showcased Syed Saddiq, a young member of parliament under the seat of Muar, to be ridiculed at getting called a budak, which translates to a little kid or a child. The clip was in the context of discussing about the unjust treatment towards ordinary citizens that disobeyed the movement control order and quarantine order that the Malaysian government had imposed last year during the peak of COVID-19 breakout case. The reason that the other senior members of the parliament stood up and became visibly provoked by the young man's comment was because the then Minister of Plantation Industries and Commodities, Datuk Khairuddin Aman Razali, apparently went on a diplomatic trip to Turkey in order to secure plantation deals and managed to brought back 8.2 billion ringgit of revenue in return for our country. However, after he arrived in Malaysia, he did not follow through with the quarantine order and abiding by the 2 weeks isolation imposed by the government. His act caused controversial topics to come up in social media and on the press, as it showcased the double standards act from people in position of his age and ordinary citizens of different ages. The argument that was brought up by young MP Syed Saddiq was articulate and based on facts. However, instead of rebuking it with another rational argument, the senior MPs in the parliament ridicule him and call him a kid. This is not the first and the last time that Syed Saddiq will get ill treatments from his senior members of the parliament. The next clip that I am about to show you is in regards to the discussion of budget 2021. And it was understood that Syed Saddiq waited to table his opinion on the budget matters, but haven't received his turn yet. So this in return caused the Pasir Salak MP, Pasir Salak, being the constituency in the parliament, being a seat in parliament, to take over his turn and told Syed Saddiq to just sit down just because he is a kid and that he has more to learn. So in my opinion, that doesn't make sense because you cannot base an argument or an opinion based on someone's age. So anyway, I will like the second clip to do the talking.
Dan saya bagi ruang kepada Pasir Salak. Terima kasih.
Saya dah tunggu lama dah Yang Berhormat.
Duduk.
Sik, mohon juga sikit ya. Mohon bagi
Budak-budak duduk dulu. Saya, Datuk Speaker, nak
Cucu
ucapkan.
Yang Berhormat tengah lihat tau.
Duduklah.
Jangan sampai nanti
Baru belajar banyak lagi. Banyak lagi perlu belajar.
orang tak akan lupa Yang Berhormat.
Duduklah.
Orang tak akan lupa.
Wasting your time. My time.
Standing order apa?
Peraturan tetap 364 Pasir Salak tadi panggil MUA budak dan saya rasa
Sudahlah, tak ada modal lain ke?
Tuan Speaker,
Memang
can
dia
you
budak.
please let me explain myself first.
No, I want to explain to you. Yang bertua. I'm
Speaker.
72. How old is she?
Tuan Speaker,
How old is he?
Tuan Speaker, this is not the first time MUA has been called budak and this is bullying and other children are watching our
What's wrong being
proceedings.
budak? Apa memang budak apa?
Saya tak akan bangun
Saya
panggil Pasir
72
Salak
tahun,
orang
dia
tua
umur
kerana
berapa tahun?
Saya menghormati
And if that wasn't bad enough, the very mentor of Syed Saddiq, Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad himself looked down on him, stating that if Syed Saddiq were to go ahead with his initiative to register Muda being a youth party led by Syed Saddiq, it will not be as successful as it is because it's too niche for the youth.
Can we take your comments on your former youth chief, Syed Saddiq's plans to potentially form a youth party? You mentioned that you don't think it's good to have too many parties. So what do you think? Is there a need for a youth party now?
Yeah, I really don't know why he wants to form a new party. But you take away the youth, that's a substantial number. But I don't think it will be very successful because although the youth is a big portion of the electorate, it's not enough for people just to win because they have the support of youth. In any constituency, there will be old people, there will be young people. We are going to appeal to young people as well. But of course, if he appeals only to young people, it's difficult for him to succeed.
It goes to show that the age bias and youth discrimination occurs very, very significantly in Malaysian politics. And it reflects the chronism and the outdated ideologies of the elderly politicians that might not be applicable in today's context and society anymore. Our Malaysian government should be supportive and encourage youth participation in politics instead of putting them down and mocking them and downplaying their opinions and ideas. Young leaders are the future of the nation, and it all starts from the hierarchy structure
Rahul
of an
Gandhi, a
organization,
notable
be it a governmental
politician
or
in Indian
private
politics,
institution.
a member of the
Malaysia
Lok
has a
Sabha,
long
which
way to
is
go
the lower
in
house of
advocating young
parliament in
youth
India.
rights. And I hope
He is representing the
the age bias
constituency
that are
of
constantly
Wayanad,
happening in our
Kerala, in
politics
the
will
17th
decrease
Lok
over the
Sabha.
years.
He is also a member of the Indian National Congress. He served as the president of the Indian National Congress from 16 December 2017 to 3rd July 2019. Despite Rahul Gandhi amassing a huge population of followers, millions of people who are dedicated to his cause and are willing to show his support, with one of his main focuses in his campaign being youth empowerment, something that all of us would love to follow. I personally would love to vote for Rahul Gandhi himself. However, apart from the political agendas that he was pushing forward, he really wanted the next generation to do something for the country. As an Indian, as a youth, part of the nation, I would really love to give him all of my support. But however, despite his best efforts, he was still met with a lot of resistance from older politicians, as that is the norm. The age groups which they exist in is most of the time 60 years and above. Hence, they constantly gave a lot of remarks to him stating that he is not experienced, he does not know how politics works, and that these people have been around for decades together while he was still a young boy. This just goes on to showcase the amount of bias, the amount of discrimination and how younger people are treated, even in politics, in regions like India, which have a population of 1.3 to 1.4 billion individuals, a lot of them coming from younger age groups. Yet, we still do not see youth empowerment on the level we would like to see. And Rahul Gandhi, despite being a role model for many of us, was still met with a lot of resistance and unfortunately could not become the Prime Minister which we wanted him to be. You can actively see the efforts that Rahul Gandhi has put into Indian politics and also raising concerns over a lot of issues the country is facing. He has amassed millions and millions of followers, as you can see in his rallies, because of the ideals he shares and the things that he stands for. Having to face such discrimination on political platforms, especially regarding your age, and discrimination existing on so many levels in regards to it, not only disheartens the individual himself, such as Rahul Gandhi, an individual I believe who was really looking forward to making new reforms, coming up with policies which would aid the youth, but also individuals like me and many other millions of young individuals in India who would have loved to not only be empowered by Rahul Gandhi and other leaders like him, but to hold a place in politics, to hold a place in the nation's reformation in terms of how to make the country better. But it is also very disheartening that such opportunities, despite them coming many times, are met with so much resistance and can never go forward to the next stage where they can truly materialize into something that we'd all want it to be. Many individuals like me would garner support for individuals like Rahul Gandhi himself, leaders who could lead us to a new chapter in the country where people would really see the worth of the youth. Yet, due to the age-old idea that the youth is immature, that they are inexperienced, and their old norms and perspectives on certain things not only sometimes are the pillars of our society, for they truly are some of the best foundations of ideals which we need to follow. However, despite their strong foundation, they are indeed very flawed in many levels. And sometimes those cracks in these columns of support can only be filled by new perspectives, new ideals, and a new way to approach them, which definitely comes from the youth. Yet due to the age discrimination and inequality, by not allowing such individuals to grow, to not allowing such people to get more opportunities and showcase their work in what they can truly manifest the country to be, will always be something that will hold us back. And that is not only something that exists in politics, but in every other aspect, from government reforms to our cultural and societal values. And it is time that we really need to speak up about this and hope for a change.
So now we move to conclusion. Finally, eliminating discrimination is key to sustaining stabilized culture and politics. There is two ways to eliminate this discrimination. Firstly, combating ageism. So we need to address ageism by removing ageist provisions in the legal and regulatory framework, and it can help the youth participate in the political sector and follow the good culture. Next, addressing prejudice and negative stereotypes about young workers that can give the youth opportunities to develop a performance with more experiences without discrimination. Lastly, encouraging age-inclusive and age-diverse workplaces can get more benefits and advantages for completing each other regarding the issues or problems that facing together. So the next way that we can eliminate this discrimination is prevent age inequality before it accumulates over time. Measures should include providing good quality childcare, and early education and helping disadvantaged youth to work. So we can create opportunities such as give more work for youth and disadvantaged communities. And we can increase economic inclusion and create decent work and higher incomes. Furthermore, we can enhance social services and ensure access to social protection, such as providing a nursery for children to get a protection. Next, facilitate safe migration and mobility so we can get a good population in the world. So lastly, that we can eliminate discrimination is mitigate entrenched age inequalities. So employment services should boost efforts to help the unemployed back to work and remove barriers to retaining and hiring older workers. So in this point, we know that we can fight for employment rights for the youth to get a work and who are unemployed. Other than that, we can support diversity in the workplace so that we do not only focus to the older workers. So it is important to prevent discrimination from happening to anyone. This is because it helps protect their rights and well-being, since everyone deserves to access the same rights and have the same opportunities in life. It helps people feel empowered and confident when they do not have anyone trying to stop them from doing anything.
Age-based discrimination and inequality surely needs to end in all platforms, let it be from cultures which follow Confucianism to talking about filial piety to platforms in which politics exist. Apart from these two platforms, there are many contexts and situations in which age-based discrimination is there. And we definitely need to put an end to it, because if nothing changes, then matters only get worse. We definitely look forward to a more better future, where such issues are not just being discussed, but action is also being taken. For definitely there has been a lot of noise, there has been a lot of commotion caused on this issue, yet we still see very little to no action at all. And we can only look forward to making and bringing about this change, for we really need to look forward to a better future, not just for the youth, but also for our elders.